Hopping around this world, yet I see no end. All shall fade to black again and again. This storm that's broken me, my only friend, yeah.
Hello Ryan, welcome to the show. You're on Kbms FM.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me on your program.
Alright, you're welcome. Thanks for joining us. So let's just dive straight in there. Now, what is this we're hearing about the new copyright law that's in Japan, or about to come around in Japan, making YouTube illegal, apparently?
Oh, yes. It's a concern that's not getting a lot of attention, and it's often being downplayed. This new revisions to the copyright law in Japan that's scheduled to take effect this October. Now, some of the key things with this is that it's redefining personal use.
Uh-huh.
And it's saying that you cannot re-upload something for personal use.
Uh-huh.
You cannot, like, say, if you were playing a video game,
yeah,
and you wanted to show people yourself playing it,
uh-huh,
that would be technically personal use because you're not changing the product any at all.
yeah.
They say if you upload that and someone in Japan watches that,
uh-huh,
that would be a violation of personal use. So any type of personal use that you're going to use on the internet,
yeah,
you can no longer do that. Also, if you want to upload a news show
uh-huh,
that you saw in Japan and you want to comment on that,
yeah,
well, now they're saying, well, that would be a violation as well because you didn't actually get permission from this news show or this TV show to re-upload anything they have produced themselves.
No, I think that's Big Brother gone completely mad, don't you?
That's really a form of extremism.
Uh-huh.
I'm actually quite surprised that Japan would do this, because Japan has actually had a quite liberal copyright laws for many, many years.
Yeah.
And for this to suddenly come about is really, really shocking to me. And there's a bit more to this. Basically, it seems like they don't understand how the internet works. Whenever you watch a video online,
uh-huh,
your browser temporarily downloads that video, regardless of what it is.
Uh-huh.
So the video will load in your browser and you can actually watch it. For the Japanese government to say that any type of illegal downloading of copyrighted material is an automatic violation, no matter what, without having any idiosyncrasies about it, or any type of lenience about it, is basically really just a lack of understanding of things. And they've also have made this illegal, where if you use any type of hardware that could possibly facilitate illegal copying or uploading of content,
yeah,
you cannot possess those hardware anymore.
So, like, say, I've got a YouTube downloader, which means I can download any YouTube video to take it onto my desktop so I can watch it at a later time without the buffering and things like that. So they're making a YouTube downloader illegal, yeah?
Yeah, that would be an issue come October.
Okay.
That would be a major issue.
Okay.
If you downloaded something that was copyrighted material in any shape or form, that could possibly be a violation in Japan.
That's absolutely terrible. That shocked me. Your video on that shocked me. If you like, you can remind the listeners of the name, because I can't remember it off the top of my head, if they'd like to view your video. I will put it into the description box below for the listeners and viewers to taken directly to your channel. Also, I might just add you into the featured channels list as well on my channel, so they can click directly from there as well.
The channel is under username FreedomWV, and your listeners are more than welcome to check it out. There's lots of videos on there, and you can watch the video where I talk about YouTube possibly becoming illegal come October in Japan. There's a whole list there. You can go through it. The video is pretty easy to find.
I'll tell my listeners right now that Ryan here is absolutely excellent in the work that he does, and I do appreciate every video that you've done, and I'm sure that our listeners would appreciate it too, and I think you'll get a definite following, more so than you have now as well. So yeah, check Ryan's channel out. It'll be in the featured list and in the description box below, guys. Now, I hear you have some news about recent anti-nuclear protests in Tokyo, Ryan. Can you tell us a little more about that?
There has been a major outpouring of resistance towards the government on the nuclear issue here in Japan. We've had some recent massive protests in the street, which is unprecedented for the people of Japan. They typically do not do things like this. I was at 2 recent protests right at the Prime Minister's office. The first one had about around 45 to 50,000 people. And then I go back the following week because they keep going every Friday. And there was an estimated 200,000 people there.
Jeez, that's
pouring into the street. The center of Tokyo.
Center of Tokyo. 200,000 people, yeah?
Part of the national government is located.
So this was to do with the anti-nuclear, obviously. Is this to do more like the oil nuclear reactor in Fuku?
That's kind of what finally woke a lot of Japanese people up. When, a lot of Japanese people have a lot of trust with their government. And, a lot of people would assume, in Japan, they would say, well, of course they're not going to restart these reactors. Of course they're not going to do that. And as the discussion went along, a lot of political strong-arming with political leaders resisting it. And as it more and more got complex and went along, the Japanese people realized that, oh yes, the government is going to restart these nuclear reactors without any proper safety checks being done. And even when new safety procedures were put in place, these reactors don't have those safety features in place yet. And they saw the government just totally sell out the will of the people. And I think that's what really woke a lot of people up and have sent them into the street.
Yeah, I mean, if I was there, I'd be in the street too. I mean, is there anything major happening about that, either from the government or these protesters?
So far, the government in Japan has completely and adamantly refused to listen to the people. It's amazing to watch this happen in this nation, where you have people pouring into the street. You have people at the Oi reactor, which was the first reactor restarted, blockade the gate to the Oi reactor, and you have riot police there, preventing them from going full into the power station. We're just chanting, no restart, no restart, no nuclear power. And to watch the government say to these people, basically, shut up, you're wrong, we're going to do it, this is how it's going to be.
Jeez.
Zero engagement with the people. It's shocking to watch this happen and to watch the Japanese people fight so incredibly hard to get their message out, to demand the leaders have at least a conversation with them. And the leaders saying, no, we're not going to discuss this.
That's absolutely ridiculous. That's absolutely ridiculous. I mean, they're people, they're human beings. And they've poured their hearts and their souls and their bodies into these Japanese streets. It's not acceptable for the human mind to take into this. And, it's absolutely a disgrace. I mean, and there's also the Fukushima reactors, the 4 nuclear reactors. There's more problems I'm hearing.
Yeah, the Fukushima situation is far from being over, no matter what the Japanese government or TEPCO would like to say. And the Japanese people, in another unprecedented thing, have actually started to stop listening to their own media. Because their own media is not telling them. And they've looked for outside sources and looked for what the rest of the world is telling them. And they've done their own research. And this is so unprecedented for the Japanese people to totally go against their own government and lose all faith in their own government.
This is ridiculous. I mean, what is exactly going on with Fukushima? What's the major problems with it at the moment? I mean, I hear something about a cooling system. Now, I'm no nuclear expert. I don't know if you are, but you maybe got more research on it than I have. Can you tell us anything about that?
Well, I can be the first to admit I'm no nuclear scientist, but due to everything going on in Japan, I have had to research this extensively to even report the information to people. The biggest problem is reactor number 4.
Uh-huh.
Now, all those reactors are in danger. But reactor number 4 is extremely a problem. It has thousands of fuel rods
Uh-huh.
in the pool. It's the most damaged reactor. It has a collapsed crane inside of it. There's all the reactors have to have a crane on top of it. One of the cranes collapsed inside of it. The building itself is extremely damaged. The core is leaking, has cracks in it. And TEPCO is struggling to keep this reactor under control. And ever so often we hear they've lost the ability to cool the reactors again. And the temperature starts to rise inside the reactor. And we come so close. Nuclear fire is to the point where they're trying to keep a fire from happening.
Jesus.
A nuclear fire. That would be catastrophic for the whole Western Hemisphere.
Oh, of course it would. Of course it would. So, I mean, what is what's being done about that? Is there anything being done about that? I mean, who's working on it? What's happening? Is the government doing something?
Well, basically, the government has handed the problem off to TEPCO and said, have fun with it. We'll just tell the people whatever you tell us.
Uh-huh.
And that's became worse because now the Japanese government has nationalized TEPCO.
Okay.
And at the recent shareholders meeting, which happened this past week, they put all government officials in control of the company and restructured the company. So effectively, TEPCO is the government. Yeah. And TEPCO, they're not telling people what's going on. We have to do our own research to find out what's going on. Watch them real close. Yeah. To find out. So basically, to give a big update on what's going on at this point, they have these live cameras that monitor Fukushima 24/7. And recently on these live cameras, we've seen demolition happening in Reactor 4. It basically looks they're taking a laser cutter and demolishing a portion of the building. And all this radioactive concrete dust was flying off that reactor. And that's just a scary thing to watch TEPCO do, an act of desperation to try to get this under control. They're actually demolishing part of the building.
Destructive of the government, and it's highly dangerous. As we say, it's going to be catastrophic if a fire does come out. Now, who and what are TEPCO? I mean, for the listeners that don't know anything about this, can you explain a little about TEPCO for us, please, Ryan?
Well, I can tell you of TEPCO and how this company was created. They're actually a product of post-war Japan. They used to be the National Electric Power Company. Well, after the war, that was, of course, stopped, and TEPCO was privatized and created a private entity. So always had a very close relationship with the Japanese government, and TEPCO has always been given a type of free pass if anything that happens. They've had nuclear leaks in the past, and it was, they were just said, oh, it's okay. So the government said, oh, it's okay. So they've always been given a very close relationship with the government. And the oversight, the Japanese Committee, the Nuclear Safety Agency, is usually riddled with people who used to work for TEPCO.
Okay.
So you have a power company that's in total control of the regulatory agencies and everything else. So that's a little bit about TEPCO and what type of company we're dealing with.
So this company is it's almost like the elite over in the Western world, yeah? Am I right in thinking that?
Yeah, they're very much elitist. They have a lot of power, a lot of control in this country.
And is China got anything to say on the matter of Fukushima or TEPCO for that matter?
Well, China has been grudgingly supportive of Japan. As you may be aware, historically, Japan and China just do not get along. And China has basically, with this situation over here, they've been kind of like, want to sit back and watch.
Yeah.
And they don't really want to help Japan. They just want to sit back and watch and let it get worse and worse and worse and worse until they can force Japan to come to them and ask for help. And that gets into geopolitics.
Yeah.
So, China just wants Japan to give in to Chinese power. And it's pretty sad because, Japan needs help with this.
Yeah, of course
China's
they
the
do.
most.
China are absolutely terrible. In my eyes, their human rights and everything in that country is just diabolical, and it just paints the picture of China and how it really is, and how it really wants the world to be. They do my nothing, to be honest. I don't appreciate what they do. I only appreciate the fact that the Japanese can make my Toshiba laptop that I'm talking over Skype at the moment. That's the only things that I can appreciate from any Eastern country like that. They don't give out the human rights. They don't encourage human rights. They're just terrible in my eyes for that. But we'll move on from that. That's another story, isn't it? Can you let us know if there's any media blackouts happening there in Japan at the moment then?
Yeah, there's definitely a media blackout going on.
Uh-huh.
When TEPCO releases press releases,
Yep.
whatever's in it, Japanese media repeats it.
Okay.
And what they tell the Japanese people and what they report to the rest of the world is two totally different things. They'll give the image that Japan's being very transparent, and they're telling the Japanese people what's going on by using much more direct quotes from the Japanese leaders, being more forthcoming about there's protest happening in Japan.
Yeah.
But when you see the Japanese media here domestically, there's really no mention of the protest.
Mm-hmm.
The leaders, the way they quote the leaders is that the leaders are right.
Yeah.
Absolutely. The oil restart was decided on.
Yeah.
I remember a quote in the Japanese media was saying that Prime Minister Noda said the government has all the sufficient support
Mm-hmm.
to make this restart happen. So we have decided to restart the reactors, and that is our final decision. But you see in the foreign media, you will see like the Minister of Economy, Idano, quoted as saying, we still have a lot of work to still do, but we're doing the best we can under the circumstances, and we admit this and we admit that.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll see that report to the foreign media, but domestically they don't report that to the Japanese people.
See, that's terrible. I mean, even our in the UK, even like just in the UK. I mean, we've got the BBC up here in Scotland that comes from England, London, and we get the media blackout as well. There's a media blackout at the moment about some sort of training exercise of the security at the London Olympics, about the London Olympics, and they're wanting to. They want to train these security guys to evacuate the whole of London for some sort of terror attack. Now, there's a media blackout here about that. I've been trying to get that up on my channel and things like that. I'm doing a little research at the moment to get that out. But, it's media blackouts are happening everywhere right at this precise moment. I mean, there's American media blackouts, there's British media blackouts. I'm sure that other countries around the world are having media blackouts.
When you see in many major world cities right now, massively huge protests against the government, in Hong Kong, in Japan, in Brazil, so many countries, and there's nothing about it.
Yeah.
It's clear the media is not on the side of the people. That's why alternative media like yourself and me are becoming vitally important to keep people informed. And more people are coming to the alternative media for sources of information far more quickly than I ever have in the past.
Oh, yeah.
Because the blackout is so obvious. When you look out your window and you see 200,000 people on the street angry, and then you watch your TV and the media says everything's fine, you kind of see something's wrong with the media.
Yeah, of course there is. Of course there is. There's big problems in the media. The media are run, as the medical systems are run by the elitists. They're run by Bilderbergs, the Rothschilds, blah blah blah. We can go on for hours about that, but this is who these people are. They control the 3 M's. That's media, money, and I've went blank. Anyway, they run the whole shebang in this world to control this world. So like the media blackouts are because the media is run by these elitists, and they don't want you to find out what they're up to in other countries. They don't want other countries finding out what they're up to in your country either.
No, the media in Japan, the mainstream media, is particularly a unique problem because here in Japan, the government has its own media. We have state media here called NHK.
Yeah.
And it's gotten to the point for me as a journalist and just as a general researcher and as a human being, I can't watch NHK. It's such a whitewash of everything that happens in Japan.
Mm-hmm.
It just cannot watch. It's ridiculous. It's almost like a comedy to a point. It's
It is. I mean, I
it's funny. It gets the where it's, if I don't laugh, I get angry and I'll throw my TV out the window. You know?
That's quite a statement there, Ryan. But yeah.
The print media in Japan, they are basically controlled by sources within the government.
Uh-huh.
Typical way for a Japanese journalist to make a name for himself is to attach himself to a particular politician and follow that politician's career.
Yeah.
And being like a broker for political deals and things. That happens a lot.
Uh-huh.
And the better they write about that politician, the more access they get, and the more they're not blacked out themselves or blackballed.
Yeah.
You know, Japanese journalists have to be sometimes very careful about getting blackballed. If they get blackballed, their own company will fire them, and no other company will hire them.
Uh-huh.
That's a typical way it's handled in Japan. They just totally shut someone down and starve them to death, put them on the street. No one will talk to them. No one will give them a job. That's a fear for a lot of journalists here.
Yeah. I mean, that's absolutely terrible. I mean, that's the media blackouts are just crazy. There's obviously something going down. I mean, I see in the Middle East and everything, they're talking about like the countries all over the world are seeing uprisings against their governments, against these dictatorships. But you know, I see it more of a dictatorship from America. I don't know if you watched my last video that I uploaded just last night. This explains quite a bit. It's quite a statement, I've been told as well. So maybe you should listen to that. It's a statement by me, Paul Hayburn, and the listeners should click and have a listen if you've not already done so. Now, so how, Ryan? Let me get back to these questions. How is the air around you? Is it getting any worse? I mean, Fukushima, like the nuclear air. Is it getting any worse around where you are?
Well, Tokyo has so far experienced moderate levels of radiation, but Tokyo is a bit in a lucky position because the wind patterns here in Japan are pushing away from Fukushima, not in towards it, where it come down here to central and south Japan.
Yeah.
So Tokyo is getting bombarded with radiation. There's no doubt we're getting it from Fukushima. But the way it comes here, it often, instead of come through wind, it comes through rain.
That's terrible, man.
The water rivers coming into the city. So it gets in our water, and it gets on the street, instead of coming through the wind.
So you'll be taking precautions then, obviously buying bottled water, things like that then, yeah?
I stopped drinking Tokyo city water 2 weeks after the nuclear crisis began.
Yeah, no, that's a wise idea. So that would move us on to our last question of this. And how is the food chain? Is the food chain okay, or is there any cause for concern with that?
Well, there's a very big list of farms. You know, the government has put this. It's well over 1,000 different rice farms that are banned from growing rice here in Japan.
And that would be because rice is obviously grown in a flood-like water, and water being rainwater, really, isn't it? I mean, they flood the farms. Is that right?
Yeah, and what's most unfortunate is that many of the areas where a lot of the rice is grown in Japan, directly in the path of Fukushima, and that radiation. A chunk of those farms have been allowed to grow rice this season.
Yeah.
But when they harvest it, if it doesn't pass safety standards, they can't sell it. It's going to have another chain effect of, you know, we had radioactive beef come through, we had radioactive rice come through, so even the safety checks to make sure things are not at a dangerous level are not working out too well. We saw last season when all the rice came in, there's so much rice that was not passing. was still making it to market. They had to stop it and block it and send it back and all these things.
Jeez. This is just absolutely terrible. If there's people in Japan that want to get their word out and to like contact yourself, I mean, is there any way they can do that without, being watched by their government? I mean, you're speaking to me and you're all right over Skype and whatnot, but your guys back there where you are, what have they got to help them out? I mean, have they got? Can they speak to anybody else about this without being monitored?
Well, Japan still has a relatively high level of free speech, but the cultural mindset here in Japan, they have this idea of, and this penetrates all Japanese culture, the idea of your public opinion and your private opinion.
Yeah.
And you get a lot of the Japanese politeness and manners come from. In public, they have to maintain their wa, or their harmony, or the nature of things. So it's difficult for them culturally to speak out.
Okay.
That's why when you see hundreds of thousands of people in the street screaming and shouting, holding up banners of loudspeakers, it's unprecedented.
Okay. So
their cultural nature is very difficult for them to speak up, but they're changing, and people are speaking up, and people are making their own videos, and people are getting out to the street, and people are trying to speak up about it,
Yeah. So then I was just wondering if there was anything else that I maybe not have asked yourself, Ryan. Excuse me. Maybe something else that I've not asked yet. That you might want to share with the listeners and the rest of the world.
There is something I would like to say. The impression that the Japanese people don't trust foreigners is something that is a bit of a myth. They've been exploited for so long after post-war Japan that they have trust issues with the outside world.
Yeah.
But if you show them that you will stand up for them and you will stand by them, they're smart people and they will see it and they will let you inside their struggle. And they will pay attention to you and they will let you in, as they say here in Japan. So, I don't want people to get the impression that the Japanese people will refuse help if it's offered to them. They just have trust issues, and people have to recognize that and give them a little bit of extra time when you approach them.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest thing I do want people to be aware of.
That's absolutely a great statement there from yourself, Ryan. And, for our listeners, listen, what Ryan said there is just puts the icing on the cake, because, we have been indoctrinated since we were kids. We've been injected forcefully. We've been educated all the wrong history. We went through war, with Japan. So did the Americans. We joined forces, the World Wars, Cold Wars, everything like that. But you got to think, guys. This is what they want you to think. You've been told to think this by your governments, your educational, your politicians. Everyone has told you who's in authority, what to believe, what to think. You've been sitting in front of a TV. Switch the bloody thing off, man. You do not need to watch it. Go outside and watch it for yourselves, guys. Listen, Ryan, thanks very much for joining us on the show tonight. We really appreciate your presence. I hope you can come back on and maybe we can do some more.
Well, I appreciate you having me on. It's so gracious of you to have me on your broadcast, and I'm so grateful to all your listeners for taking the time to listen to me and to listen to yourself. It means a great deal to me. I thank all of you so very much.
Thank you as well, Ryan. And how is it you say thank you in Japanese? Is it?
If you want to say thank you, wait a minute. It's like 4 or 5 in the morning for me right now. If you simply say thank you to Japanese people, they know what you mean.
Okay.
Oh, arigato.
Arigato.
Easy.
Thanks very much again, Ryan.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, thank you very much, Ryan. Goodbye.
Bye.